Well, that was an exciting musical interlude. Jeez. I tell you what, this is Freaky Friday, Sasha.
Well, it might as well be a last Friday. I'm not prepared to continue shows under these circumstances. I'm not paid to do this show.
Well,
It,
neither am I for that matter. We're doing it. We're doing it for the love of our work,
right.
and the fact that we are bringing a much needed service to the world and to our viewing audience by keeping them well informed of the actual developments in between Russia and Ukraine, and trying to correct some of the propaganda that's out there that the Russians have been conducting with their misinformation campaigns, trying to make it seem as if their victory is inevitable, or that Ukraine is at fault for starting the war, and all sorts of other disinformation themes that the Russians have perpetrated. So there is a service, and it is worthwhile. The technical difficulties. Well, behind the scenes, Sasha, we'll just have to give a verbal tongue lashing to to our producers and say, hey, look, fellas, if you want to have credibility, if you want viewers to watch your programs, get the technical difficulties cleared up. It's just as simple as that. So I too regret the temporary inconvenience that this is not an absolute habit of this network. So I'm kind of mystified as to the technical difficulties that have occurred today, but I do hold out. I tend to be the eternal and relentless optimist, and that in that I believe, especially next Tuesday, by next Tuesday, when we will have Ivan again with us, hopefully, from Kiev, we will have some updated news and perhaps some additional military developments that continue to reflect Ukraine's march towards sovereignty, independence from Russia, and complete independence from attack, and make that should be a very hopeful sign. So, other than that, I agree with you. I don't have that much to add to today's discussion and update, other than the fact that Russia continues to demonstrate to the world that it is not interested in peace. It is interested in total victory, but at no further cost to themselves. Demanding that the Ukrainians withdraw from the territories that Russia is trying to take over. So that's a non-starter. That's not going to convince the United States to make any deals. It's not going to convince anybody else to make any deals.
When you're talking about United States, you talking about the administration, or are you talking about President Donald Trump? President
Both.
Donald Trump, no, it's not the same. The administration already understands very well what the Russians are doing, how to deal with it. All the proposals, for example, about this 500% embargo on countries that are purchasing Russian oil, it's all ready to go. Now, Donald Trump. Actually, he's doing tremendous job under the circumstances. Jonathan, you're aware that they stopped all the fighting with Houthis.
Yes.
They lost tremendous amount of firepower of planes and it's just see this is what is a contradiction. Why do they need $1 trillion military budget if they cannot or and unable to use their military? When the last time US had any military victory? Well, Second World War comes to mind.
Persian Gulf War,
uh,
1991.
Gulf War, yeah. So keep fighting Persian Gulf War. At that time, I think US it was much more focused and
Oh, yes.
able to fight than today. The
And as a
huge
matter of fact, the thing I would point out to you, Sasha, on that, with the Persian Gulf, George Bush Sr., he focused on a very limited military objective, simply kick Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, and he did not make the mistake of trying to broaden the war objectives by trying to go after Baghdad. He was asked, as a matter of fact, why he did not go after Baghdad after having kicked Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. And his reply was he did not want to be caught in the middle of a civil war. a very wise decision.
Yeah.
And given given George Bush Sr.'s resume and his experience, arguably the most qualified man for president that we've ever had in terms of just his experience and what he'd done, all of that was very, and it's a pity that his son did not learn from his example because he overextended himself by going into Iraq and Afghanistan during his terms. But in any case, to get to your question about the $1 trillion budget, that is going to be the subject, and I would encourage our listeners to tune in to Dave Walker's show this coming Monday, where the focus of the discussion is going to be the Pentagon's $1 trillion budget. And I intend to bring up some very valid points about what do you do with $1 trillion budget. It's not so much the fact that there's $1 trillion budget, it's what they intend to spend it on. The problem is that this administration, just based on their declared actions thus far, have not formulated a clear national security strategy with specific goals and priorities that dictate what they are going to spend their money on. And when you do not have a firm declared strategy, essentially the Pentagon's I call it a slogan, really, where they talk about attaining full spectrum dominance. Well, attaining full spectrum dominance is not a strategy. When you look at that carefully, what it really translates to is more of everything is better. It does not set priorities. It does not formulate a strategy, really, of sorts. Even during the Second World War, the United States did prioritize its vast resources, and they knew they weren't unlimited, but they did prioritize them very specifically as to what they were going to spend their money on first. Then basically the other services had to work with what was left. That was why the United States only mobilized a 90-division army rather than some people were advocating a 200-division army, which would have taken away from the other elements of military power that enabled the United States to gain superiority over the Axis. So I would encourage you, just for your planning purposes, to be on that show this Monday on Dave Walker's show, so you and I can both bring some very valid points.
Send me a link, please, to the show. Send me a link to that.
Oh, yeah, I'll ask Mark. I'll ask Mark to send you that link because it is very important. Because I will be making arguments about how and why the United States should be carefully prioritizing that $1 trillion. Because if waste, fraud, and abuse has been found in other elements of the U.S. government by DOGE, I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar that there's waste, fraud, and abuse to be found in the proposed $1 trillion Pentagon budget. Money that would either be devoted to reducing the debt or reprioritized to more important areas of the Trump administration's strategy. And I'll give you one quick example, and then I'm going to go ahead and be ready to punch out for the weekend. The most obvious example is President Trump's proposed Golden Dome. Now, what Golden Dome essentially amounts to is a repudiation by the Trump administration of the previous Biden administration's national security strategy, which was when they envisioned the United States having to fight 3 nuclear-armed adversaries, Russia, China, and North Korea. And they were advocating that the United States expand its nuclear arsenal. Spend more money on nuclear weapons. They didn't mention a thing about strategic defense or defending against nuclear weapons. The Trump administration is in effect repudiating that by advocating the Golden Dome. But what's contradictory about the Trump administration's budget is that they've got a lot of money devoted to building more and modernizing more nuclear weapons. It's contradicting its own declared strategy. You can't be spending more money trying to defend against nuclear weapons while at the same time you're building more nuclear weapons in accordance with the old doctrine of concept of mutually assured destruction. You notice that I've mentioned I advocate constructing eventually a worldwide strategic defense matrix, WISDOM. That's both a symbolic and a real strategic paradigm shift. So what I'm arguing for is if you're going to build strategic defense that in effect neutralizes the other side's nuclear arsenals, don't spend another dime on building offensive nuclear weapons. You want to concentrate on neutralizing their nuclear weapons. That has a much greater effect on their perceptions. As a matter of fact, both Putin and Xi have stated that they consider Golden Dome to be, quote, highly destabilizing. It's not destabilizing to their existence, it's destabilizing to their power. It's destabilizing to their ability to exert leverage against the West. And that would be my principal argument. You need to take that $1 trillion and spend it more cleverly in accordance with your declared strategic priorities. And as far as all the other, but that would be the sole focus of that. And that's why a $1 trillion budget doesn't do you any good if you spend it on the wrong things. And that will be essentially my argument. And you can add to that argument too on Monday and say, okay, yeah, and this is what, if the Trump administration is serious about doing what it takes and achieving these goals, then it needs to be more consistent. It needs a clear-cut strategy which correctly prioritizes its military spending. And that, my friend, is pretty much the way I plan to approach this coming Monday. In the meantime, it's the developments in Ukraine are very. I am cautiously optimistic. That the Ukrainians are saving up and waiting for the right opportunity to take their strategic reserves. And once they see the proper opportunity, and the key is timing, being able to time their punch so that Russia cannot react effectively.
Jonathan, I'd like to mention that all European countries, NATO and European Union, they all fed up with Putin, and they all want to start. And a lot of people in the U.S. administration and Senate and everywhere, they are ready to start serious, real actions against Russia, like not tariffs, but the embargo. Just name it.
It's unfortunate, but it's better than kowtowing to Russia or trying to appease Russia when they know that there is no real possibility of appeasement.
There is one person that we all know very well who is trying to appease Russia and deal with Russia. And his name is Donald Trump, believe it or not, President of the United States. So he wants single-handedly to completely rewrite all political history of the United States, which was formed in the last century. He wants to make it Trump strategy, Trump dealing with killers like Putin is. I'm just wondering, okay, that's all fine. That's what Trump believes, and maybe he's right. By the way, I'm not prepared to say that he's incorrect 100%. At least talk to your friend to stop bombardment of Ukrainian civilians and children and women. Ask him to stop, continue the war, trying to get Avdiivka in the next 2 years, and then another village for the next 5 years, and that will take you exactly 21 years to get all your goals. Stop killing civilians, you murderer. Why Trump is not doing that? Doesn't he have a power? Doesn't he have all the might of NATO and Pentagon and everything else? What else does he need, really? It's blood on his hands right now.
Oh, no, it's not blood on his hands. It's blood on Putin's hands. I'm sorry.
If that's so,
because Putin is disregarding whatever the West says. He's
Jonathan, so Trump, what is he blind? He's deaf. He doesn't understand anything. What is he? He's incapable. He should be put in a nursing home. If he has any brains, start to act. You said, okay, Putin, we can do it an easy way, or we can do it the hard way. The hard way time came. Do it. After all, who is Trump? He was elected to protect and advance interest of the United States, not Donald Trump, not getting all this $400 million plane and running around and look, I'm bringing investments, $1 trillion. No, it's going to be $5 trillion or so. Stop that shit. Do and act to help preserve American interest, and he's not doing that. This is really going crazy. Now he says that there will be no peace before I will meet Putin. Go and meet the murderer. Okay, do it, but do it as fast as possible. Enough. People are being killed every day. Today people are killed, and tomorrow there will be killed on the day after. Stop that nonsense. You see this balagan, the circus that Russians send third-rated representatives.
Which proves that they are not serious.
It proves beyond any point, and
that they're not serious.
On and on.
And as soon as the Trump administration has fully absorbed that lesson, they will act appropriately. That is
administration. Yes, they could, but not without Trump. They cannot do anything. They are all under Trump, and whatever Trump will say, that's what's going to happen. They're all scared to death that they will lose their elections if Trump will be not happy with them. He will just put another candidate and replace them, and they're going to lose their $175,000 a year job and free parking at the Dallas airport. And that's not what they want to do. They want to still keep the job. They want to keep.
I don't think they're that quite enamored of their perks. Yeah, just yet. I just don't think that's going to be the case.
Well,
you may be reading too much into the situation.
You know what? Many people admitted exactly that. They want to keep their job. They want to keep their $175,000 for an average American. It's like $10 million. It's a huge money. And admitted that if they will lose their jobs, they will have to go and start trying for directorship in some corporations. So they will be paid $25,000, maybe $50,000 a year or so on, and no free parking. I think they're all scared to death, and they will do everything what Trump will tell them, whether it's right or wrong. And I just wish that Trump will meet Putin ASAP. Give him a call in the next 30 minutes, fly tomorrow to Moscow, meet him there, talk to him there, come back and say, where are you going with all that? It's really going.
Well, Sasha, thanks to that spirited monologue of yours, we have actually reached the allotted time. For Friday, so it's not been a total waste.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you to appear on. Dave, I will send Mark a request to send you the link inviting you to be on Dave's show this Monday, so that we can join in. We can join what I sometimes like to call the verbal food fight, and see what sense we can make. I've already given you a preview of what my position is going to be on the $1 trillion budget. It has to be dictated. There has to be a clear-cut strategy laid out, which properly prioritizes how much you are going to spend and what you're going to spend it on. And again, I'm also willing to bet that DOGE, or however it functions, would also be well advised to identify waste, fraud, and abuse, things that we should not be spending money on in the defense budget, and at the very least, reallocate those resources to the resources that really matter to the Trump administration, i.e. probably Golden Dome. So in any case, given all that, I move that we go ahead and call this a show for today. Yes. for our audience. It has been a lively discussion, and I believe that I'm looking forward to Monday and to next Tuesday. When we have our next Ukraine show with Ivan giving us his latest observations on what's going on, and I'm confident that the correlation of forces will be continuing to shift in Ukraine's favor, and I am just quietly and prayerfully optimistic that the Ukraine is saving its best effort for the proper time this summer, and being able to unleash a decisive counteroffensive, which I hope will be the retrieval of Crimea back under Ukrainian control. That will be the decisive defeat that convinces Russia this war is lost, and it's time to declare victory and go home.
Those who can.
Those who are still capable of walking.
Yeah, They're now using a motorcycle for
Yeah,
their trucks.
they're
And
they're
some
logis-
is going to be
they're
bicycles.
they're the logistic systems. They're donkeys. They're go karts. Whatever they've got that will get them back to Russia.
I
Get them
think
back to Russian.
they should start building donkey farms, and these farms will do very well if it's a war.
Well,
going
they've
to last
obviously
21 years.
they've obviously run out of horses because during the Second World War, their logistic systems until the United States began supplying them with Ford trucks was essentially horses and wagons. They did not really have much in the way of motorized logistical transport. So, in the same logistical weakness you've noticed is showing up in Russia's army today in the 21st century. It's even more inexcusable now than it was back then.
So it went almost a full circle from
Yes.
horses and wagons, and then it came now to donkeys and wagons, or maybe if there is no wagons already. So,
yeah,
it's
Sasha, it would be amusing if the results were not so tragic.
yeah,
So, yeah. So, in any case, I'm going to go ahead and I propose we go ahead and leave it for today and look with optimism for that show next Monday, and also for our next iteration of the Ukraine show on Tuesday with Ivan, who hopefully will be bringing us more insightful observations and rather enlightening videos that he always is always able to bring. And that should be a very good thing. Yeah. So in any case, I'm going to say, God bless America. And you are going to say,
glory to Ukraine. And
excellent.
Great weekend.
You do the same.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.